You're staring at the cursor. Blink, blink. It's midnight on a Tuesday, and that spreadsheet isn't moving. Your coffee is ice cold, a bitter reminder of the 3 hours you just lost. It feels like you're trying to build a castle with a plastic shovel while everyone around you is using an excavator. Your phone buzzes. Another notification. Another round of layoffs in your sector. The knot in your stomach tightens. It's not just the deadline anymore. It's the creeping, terrifying thought. Am I already obsolete? This isn't paranoia. It's a quiet war. A line is being drawn not by race or politics, but by logic. You're middle class, college-educated, doing everything right, but you are standing on the wrong side of that line. In an incredibly short amount of time, the entire landscape of value has shifted. Efficiency has been weaponized. The tasks you were hired for, the analysis, the creativity, the thinking, have just been automated by a process that is invisible, infinitely fast, and cheaper than you could ever be. This is the new economic reality. It's a silent segregation, and you can't afford to lose this fight. But first, you have to realize you're already fighting it. You still believe it's about effort. You think if you put in the extra hours, if you refine your skills, if you become the person who never misses a detail, you'll stay safe. That's the lie. It's a comfort blanket woven by a system that needed you to believe in the meritocracy. But the ground has shifted beneath your feet. While you were busy mastering the processes of 2020, the architecture of the entire economy was rewritten. Think about your day-to-day. You're spending 60% of your time on administrative friction, email management, data reconciliation, scheduling, formatting reports. It feels like work. It feels like productivity. But in the eyes of the new algorithmic economy, that is just overhead. It is a cost to be minimized, not a value to be rewarded. You aren't being paid for your thinking anymore. You're being paid for your compliance to outdated workflows. Every time you manually compile a report, you're just training the model that's destined to replace you. The tragedy isn't that you aren't smart. The tragedy is that you are using human cognitive capacity to perform machine-level tasks. You're playing a game of checkers, while the board has already been upgraded to a supercomputer. Your job title isn't a shield. It's a target. And the terrifying part? The people deciding your fate aren't even looking at your resume anymore. They're looking at your output-to-cost ratio measured in milliseconds. You're beginning to see it now, aren't you? The veil isn't just thin, it's dissolving. You look at your boss, and you realize they're just as lost as you are, terrified that their own high-level decision-making is being outsourced to a dashboard. This is the pivot. It's the moment you stop asking, how do I work harder? And start asking, how do I stop being the labor? Look around the office tomorrow. The people who aren't stressed, they aren't the ones working the longest hours. They're the ones who have stopped trying to compete with the machine and started treating the machine as an extension of their own reach. It's a bitter pill to swallow. You've spent years building your identity around your technical skills, your software proficiency, your ability to get things done. But that identity is now a liability. The market doesn't value doing anymore. It values directing. If you can't tell the system what to build, the system will eventually decide you're unnecessary. You are at a crossroads. You can cling to the old model, the safe, comfortable, dying model, where you sell your time for a wage, hoping for a promotion that never comes. Or you can acknowledge that the rules of gravity have changed. You aren't just an employee anymore. You are a legacy asset struggling to justify your maintenance costs in a world that has discovered a cheaper, faster upgrade. You tried it. You tried to pivot. Last week you spent 4 hours of your life trying to automate that recurring compliance report. You thought you were being clever. You thought you were finally stepping into that role of director instead of labor. But then the error messages started. The API key expired. The formatting broke. You stared at the screen, and for the first time, you didn't feel like a visionary. You felt like an imposter. This is the struggle that nobody talks about. The gap between wanting to be a master of the machine and actually being its operator is a chasm filled with failure, doubt, and cold, hard reality. Your boss walked by while your screen was a mess of red text. You minimized the window, panicked, and went back to the manual process. You felt that old, familiar shame, the shame of being just a worker, when you desperately wanted to be more. You're under pressure from all sides. The mounting bills, the fear of the next performance review, and the internal crushing weight of realizing you don't actually know how to build the future you're trying to survive in. It's not just that you're fighting the system, you're fighting your own muscle memory. Every fiber of your training is screaming at you to go back to the safe, manual labor that keeps you employed today. even if it kills your chances for tomorrow. You're realizing the trap. It's not just about learning a new software. It's about how the system itself is designed to keep you trapped in the friction zone. Think about it. Your company doesn't actually want you to automate your job. That's a dangerous narrative. They want you to be just efficient enough to keep the engine running, but not efficient enough to render yourself autonomous. This is the hidden architecture of the middle-class squeeze. You are the buffer. You are the human error corrector for systems that are already smarter than you, but not yet reliable enough to run without a human scapegoat. Every time you fix a bug in an automated report, you are building the very tool that will eventually replace your role. You are effectively coding your own redundancy. The ones who thrive in this environment don't try to compete with the machine's speed. They shift their focus to the high-level logic that the machine cannot see. They stop asking, "How do I do this?" and start asking, "What should be done and why?" The divide isn't between the tech-savvy and the tech-illiterate. The divide is between the people who are busy feeding the machine and the people who are setting its direction. If you stay in the loop of doing, you are the fuel. If you stay in the loop of deciding, you are the driver. You're currently burning your life away in the furnace, and until you grasp that, you'll never stop feeling the heat. You have to detach, not from your ambition, but from your utility. The hardest part of this transition isn't the technical learning curve, it's the psychological decoupling. For 20 years, you've been told that your value is equivalent to your output. You measure your worth by how many reports you finish, how many emails you clear, how many fires you put out. But that is the old world's currency. In the age of AI, the people who are decoupled, the ones who don't anchor their identity to the task, are the only ones who survive the volatility. Think of it like this. If you are the one holding the hammer, you are a tool. If you are the one designing the house, you are an architect. You need to stop being the hammer. You need to start looking at the structure. This is where the class divide solidifies. There is a class of people who are being integrated into the system as high-cost maintenance personnel, and there is a class of people who are using the system to build assets. Which one are you? You are likely still trapped in the maintenance mindset, trying to optimize your own exhaustion. But look at the data. The most successful people in your industry aren't working more. They aren't even working harder. They are leveraging the AI to handle the doing, while they spend their cognitive energy on the directing. You're terrified of being replaced by AI, but the real danger is being replaced by someone who figured out how to use it before you did. Now look at the horizon. You've stopped being the gear and started looking at the clockwork. This is the shift. You aren't just surviving the disruption anymore. You are positioning yourself within it. The economy isn't shrinking. It's being re-engineered, and that re-engineering requires a new kind of human. Not the kind that follows the manual, but the kind that rewrites it. You notice the people in your office who are still grinding, the ones frantically chasing the same outdated metrics. And for the first time, you don't feel superior. You feel pity. You recognize the rhythm of their panic, because you were trapped in that same vibration only weeks ago. They are fighting the tide. You are learning to surf. This isn't about working fewer hours. It's about ensuring that every hour you do invest, you're building an asset that compounds. You are delegating the rote, the repetitive, and the mundane to the algorithms. And you are reserving your human capital, your intuition, your synthesis, your ability to spot patterns where others see only noise, for the work that actually moves the needle. You are no longer just an employee. You are an operator of leverage. This is the quiet transition of the new class. It's not a title change on LinkedIn. It's a total shift in cognitive orientation. The machine is now your engine, not your adversary. And suddenly, the future doesn't look like a threat. It looks like a canvas. So, which one are you? You have the answer now. The class divide isn't about your bank account or your job title. It's about your perspective. Are you still a worker bee waiting for the next layoff notice? Or have you become the architect of your own ecosystem? The world is accelerating, and the gap between those who fuel the machine and those who steer it is widening by the second. You don't need a miracle, and you don't need a new degree. You need to stop asking for permission to be effective. The tools of the future are already in your hands. You just have to stop using them to play the games of the past. Stop the busy work. Stop the manual labor. Look for the friction, design the solution, and let the algorithm do the heavy lifting. This is your life, your capital, and your time. Don't trade it for a wage. Trade it for leverage. The old system is burning down. But for those who understand the shift, there has never been a better time to build. You are no longer fighting the current. You are the one deciding where the river flows. The choice was never between AI and you. It was always between being the product or being the pilot. And now you're finally in the cockpit. Take the controls. The future isn't happening to you. You're the one making it happen.